one of the things I wanted to pick up on today in relation to what's been posted so far, which I think would be relevant to everybody, is, and before I say that, I want to preface this with everybody's doing really, really well. I'm really delighted, and I hope you're feeling a sense of, even if it's small, a sense of progression, a little sense of achievement. Starting to run is no mean feat, and whatever it is, remember it's always on our terms. So if we feel like today is better than yesterday, or this afternoon is better than this morning, that's all that matters. It's not any comparison with anybody else. And it is early days, so the second week in. But one of the things I think would be useful to highlight is when we think about either describing what's working, what's going well, or what we might like to be better. If we imagine tomorrow's better than today, how we express and think about that to help us move forward. And I noticed there were a few language pieces, and language is really, really important with me and in terms of tapping into the way our brains work. So there were a few phrases that I noticed, I picked up on, like hoping to, managed to, need to, generally, and possibly. I'm going to start with the first three first. Hoping to, manage to, need to. Hoping to is quite it's kind of got there's a little elevation. If you connect these, I want you to think about feelings, at what you feel about them when you hear the phrases or think them. So hoping to is, and there's a bit of positivity in there, isn't there? It's like, oh, well, I'm hoping to be, there's something, you expect something nice to come after that. That's what you would expect. So it's quite nice, but there's a little bit of a sting in the tail, because when we hope to do something, we've already planted a seed of doubt.
It's always a but.
There's a but. Yeah. I hope I can do that. Yeah. And we don't realize we're doing it. We just, it's just normal language. We're just talking, thinking, but being aware if we think or say something like, I'm hoping to, just pause for a moment and go, interesting. I'm hoping to do it. Because what we want to move towards is a place where you don't just hope to do the things you want to do, but you will do the things you want to do. Because that's the source of, if we're doing what we want to do, and I don't mean that's not necessarily in the grand scheme of like whole life plans, from the tiniest level, like, this afternoon, what do I want to be doing? In my view, that's how I want to live every hour of my day as much as I can, is, am I doing what I want to be doing? Have I told myself a story about why I'm doing something else, which comes onto the need to? So need to, when we hear that, I mean, just let that settle for a minute. Think to yourself, that's something you need to do. Does that fill you with kind of joy? You're expecting?
Not usually, no.
No, there's oh no, what's coming? So there's a little trepidation around a little word like need. I need to is not a phrase we attach to things we want to do. They're usually attached to someone else's objectives, some story we've told ourselves about how things need to be, should be, must be, ought to be. They're all relatively interchangeable. And so again, it's one of those opportunities to pause and kind of think, well, who says? Who says? Because we rarely do that. I mean, how do either of you, and how often do you actually question something that you're telling yourself you need to do, in terms of, well, who the hell says? Why?
Sometimes when you write a list of things that you've got to do, and it's like, and I look at the list and I think, Why do I need to do all those?
Yeah. Oh, good.
They still stay there, but
Does it? Oh,
okay,
okay.
yeah, they might stay at the bottom and not get done.
Right, but they're on the list. But so
Yeah.
when they're on the list, that creates weight, as in physical sense of ugh. It's like a heaviness to it.
Mm.
So I'm really glad that you think that, but maybe just cross it off, Leslie. Cross it off. What kind of things might you question?
I suppose it's things like looking around now, cleaning windows. You know, yes, it has to be done at some point, but it's not always something that I might relish, I suppose. I've got some cupboards in my utility room that I just put stuff in when we had it done last year, and I thought I'll wait and see how I use the utility room and whether I need to adjust some shelves, get some more hooks. I need to do that because I haven't done it, but it's not something I'm particularly enamored about wanting to do. So they just get left, but it's still in my head that it's something that has to be done at some point.
Okay, I like that example. Yeah, go on.
There's probably some others, but those are the two. Those are sort of those kind of things that come to mind at the moment. That
what I really liked about that particular example was there's an element of the way you described it of like you're describing it as a need to, and you're saying you're not that enamored about it, but there's an outcome from that you've already identified, which presumably is a want to.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, yes, because then I would be a bit more organised in there.
And what would being organised give you?
It would stop the rest of the family asking me where things are, because I know and they don't.
Oh, okay. It's all right. So when you drill deeper, oh, see what you uncover.
And it would also stop me having to take certain things out just to get to something else. So it'd make it a bit more efficient.
Okay. So if you were to unpick that in terms of what you want, so this is not me planting suggestions, this is just posing questions. It sounds like what you want is people to stop asking you where things are and actually go find them themselves. Maybe?
That's part of it, yes.
And again, when I'm doing this, none of this is suggestive. It's just about coming at things from different angles and actually drilling down a bit deeper into those little throwaway bits, items on our list, thoughts that we have that we don't give a second thought to, and keep drilling until you find out, is this for somebody else? And therefore, can't they? Do you know what I mean? Do I need to be doing it if it's for someone else? Do I? Yeah. And is there? And then we can ask ourselves some more questions, like Sharon said she'd be late. Like maybe sometimes we tell ourselves that there isn't a want, so that list you gave us, hi there, like you don't want to clear out the cupboards, but maybe if you dove deeper, that's what Americans say, isn't it? If you were to dive deeper, there's sometimes an actual want when we're telling ourselves it's a need that we don't want, but really there is a want, which sounds completely bonkers.
Yes, I see what you mean, and I would agree. I would prefer to do it myself, to organise it myself, not to say, oh, but because it's partially for the rest of the family, let them do it.
Yeah.
Because then I would feel that I've lost control over technically what's my area, because I've wanted this utility room for years. So yes, it's been it is something that I would like to do, but I think in terms of lots of other things that have been going on, I haven't felt it to be that urgent.
Yeah. Other things higher up the list. So that actually, when we draw down into that, that sounds like that is actually something for you, because you were saying this is my
Yeah.
space. This is my space.
Yeah.
Don't you lot?
Yeah, but it's as I say, it's a two-pronged thing, because occasionally, if any of the rest of the family want something, then it's like, oh, where's this, where's that? If I organize it better,
Yeah.
then they and label things, then it would be easier for them to find things. And as I said before, it would also make it a bit more efficient for me when I'm doing stuff in there, organising the washing and the cleaning and all the knickknacks that are in there.
Yeah. So just consider that the bit that's for you, like the efficiency for you, that might shift how you feel about it. Because I'm wondering about now you've told me this, the things that are higher up that list, so this is at the bottom of the list, how many of those actually link to something that is for you?
It's difficult to say, because actually the list isn't, it's not completely written down anymore.
But in your head?
In my head, I suppose the main one is to start on my job search and that, really. But I have been putting a lot of the other admin tasks before it, which I shouldn't have done to some extent.
Right.
But there are, with the house, for example, there's a lot of things that have to be done by a certain date. So I didn't really have a lot of choice in that. And for me, I wanted to get those out of the way, and then it would leave me time, clearer time to focus on myself.
Okay. All right then. So I'm not here to lecture anybody, so I hope no one's thinking that.
No, but it's actually been quite useful to articulate it, rather than just write it down and look at it and carry it around in my head.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful.
Good. And that's, I think, the value. I like to think that's the value of these sessions, where we can all be here, because I'm sure each of us, even though we all have different experiences, living in different places and different lives, but there are commonalities. And I suspect the penny drops for others, maybe different circumstances, but that whole issue of how high am I up this list, and who am I doing this for, and what story have I told myself about why this is so important. I think we all do that, and sometimes it is good to hear someone else articulate it as well, to think, okay, I'll just have another think about my own little list that I've created. And I take no credit for this particular thing, but I think quite a powerful tool for helping you drill down for yourself. I learned from Brene Brown. Are you familiar with Brene Brown, anyone? Okay. She kind of writes for business, but her stuff is really good. She writes about vulnerability and the power of vulnerability and all sorts of stuff. But there's a tool that she uses for helping us to express, and normally it's in relation to relationships and conflict resolution, but I think it's really powerful just for ourselves to go, what am I really thinking here? And it's to preface what it is. So when I said to you, so why do you want to clear out the cupboards, for example, to preface that with, the story I tell myself is. When we do that, it kind of gives us an opportunity to step away from it and to kind of be an observer of ourselves and our own thinking and our own behaviours. When we recognise that, is this actually all as unchanged? Because often we convince ourselves that things are unchangeable, incontrovertible, or I couldn't possibly, no, I couldn't alter that, that's sacrosanct, or whatever it is. But if we start with that, the story I tell myself is, it opens up a little bit of a window to go, is there another version of this? Is there another way of looking at this? And that can be quite liberating. So the other phrase, so I've mentioned hoping to, which is positive, but we want to kind of start moving towards not hope to, but will do. We've covered need to, but there's also managed to, which is sort of somewhere in between the two, isn't it? I managed to, could be, I managed to do something for me. Hooray, I managed to finally, you know, you were talking about going out on that run, Leslie. I managed to go on a run, which is celebratory. But it almost, it's, what is it? It's not a full-on celebratory thing, isn't it? It's all there's a little bit of almost apology in when we manage to do something. We're just grateful that we had this opportunity. You know, we're grateful we carved this little bit out. It's still not full on. Yay! I went for a run. It was great. I'm so glad I went for a run. Which is, you might think, well, why does that even matter? It's these subtle shifts in language and in the way we think and the way we speak that change how we feel about stuff. And we are all of these examples are a little bit apologetic, a little bit, or I'm not really allowed to show up as me, or it's about stepping more into, you know, if I get a bit Radio 4 about language sometimes. You know, stepping into an active verb. Oh, my goodness, let's have an active verb. You know, like hoping to go for a run. I'm going for a run. Managed to go for a run and went for a run. Need to go for a run, I'm going for a run. It's you know, we do have a tendency, and it does just kind of rub off, and it's almost like sanding away the edges of ourselves, of who we are, of who we're entitled to be. Yeah, does that make sense, or is that helpful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can you just tell me, Shirley, the name of that? Who was it? Brown?
Oh, Brené Brown, Brene, with a French.
That's how I thought. That's what I thought you said.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look her up, I mean, if you want to just see a little bit about her, she does TED Talks, which are very entertaining.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the TED Talks, because I listened to the one by Carolyn.
Oh, you've frozen.
Cliff.
Geraldine.
It was on your mind. I'm trying to think of a name. Caroline Miss.
Yeah.
Your list of
yeah.
TED. And that was interesting, because she was talking about use of language as well, and words that we shouldn't, you know, words that perhaps should not appear in our vocabulary, and the power, and she's very much into the power of words. And yeah, it was a very interesting talk.
Yeah. I mean, I build everything I'm working on. So when you get to close your eyes, not too long from now, a few moments from now, everything is, for me, is about language, because language is, you know, it's hard. So our brain actually is more comfortable with senses. So our brain is quite comfortable with just recognizing, how do I feel about this? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? We can do that. And we don't, as long as we don't have to explain to someone. If you have to explain to someone what a taste is like, for example, where on earth do you start? We don't actually have the linguistic tools to express what we really want to express. And so what we end up with is a shorthand. And it works relatively well, communicating with other people. But what it also does, which is powerful in the way that I like to use it, is it's kind of, did I in the webinar, did I have a picture of an iceberg? Does anyone remember me? Did I use a picture of an iceberg and I talked, there was like a little bit at the top and then there's the big iceberg underneath? Maybe not.
I think I saw one somewhere recently.
Right. Well, if you imagine the language we use is the top of the iceberg, and underneath the water is all of the neural pathways and the networks and the synaptic connections going on inside our brains. So the language is like, they're like little bits sticking out the top, if you imagine this. But they connect in a way we don't consciously realise with what goes on underneath the surface. So if I use a phrase like up to speed, what's that? Someone singing? I'm just gonna, I think that might be Sue, so I've just muted Sue. Sorry, Sue. So if I say, for example, I use a phrase like up to speed. It's not a phrase I use, but let's say I did. Without realising it, that little phrase links to a myriad of patterns in my brain that connect to feelings, to events, to experiences, to other people that I don't know about consciously. I'm just using a phrase like up to speed. But when we use that kind of phrase, which is why I like to use this session to get a little bit of an opportunity to catch up with you, to read what you've written on the Facebook page, and then do my best to reflect the language patterns that are familiar to you, that in your unconscious, without you realizing it, it's connecting to familiar patterns. Am I making sense, or am I doing one of those things where I'm just kind of gone off on a tangent? Does that make sense, or I confused everyone?
So you were saying that what relates to patterns? The
language we use.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of a good example that came up yesterday. I mean, it happens all the time. Oh, I know. So I was working with someone yesterday who has a problem. You know, what they really need help with is anger, because they just keep losing it with people.
Oh, yeah.
And they were talking about lists. So here's the interesting thing. So without realizing it, so what they kept using the phrase, talking about their list, ticking off. Now, I don't know what goes on under the surface, but I thought, isn't that interesting? So that little phrase has a myriad of meanings that we're not consciously aware of. But if you just pick a phrase like that, you can see that actually ticking off also means telling off, being told off. And so unwittingly, we pick up bits of language that we throw into our common usage. And without realizing it, they're connected to experiences that we've had in the past. So when we start to, we don't have to change the way we speak all the time, but an increased awareness with some of these phrases, like hoping to, manage to, need to, should, must, is really important. And the final couple of things I wanted to mention before I let you just close your eyes and relax. Again, it's that non-specificity. So when we talk about generally and possibly, as I said at the beginning, we're only in week 2. Nobody's going to be running before they can walk. But what we tend to do when we're stuck, we're general about the good stuff and we're specific about the bad stuff. So everything we feel negative about, everything that holds us back, everything that frustrates us, if you're given a platform with someone to just let off steam a little, you could, with very little encouragement, you could probably speak for hours, going into all the ins and outs and the nuances of why this is annoying, why this is upsetting, why this happened, why that happened, with intricate detail, and you can picture it in your head and you can hear the conversation and you can see who was there. And if I said, oh, who was in the room? And you go, well, it was this person, that person, where were you? Oh, well, it's easy to get the detail. But what we're doing is moving towards what we want. That's the whole purpose of Crisis to Freedom, from a place where we don't want to be to a place we do want to be. We want to move away from the general. So if we have a generally good time. We don't always say that, but sometimes we do say generally had a good time. That's not focusing enough on the things that are really important moving forwards. So to begin with, we do have to work a little bit at stop being general. Let's be really specific about, well, what was it that made it a good time? Where was the detail? And if you remember what we did last week on Friday, we did that exercise. So we did that eyes closed, and I just asked you to think about something, that a time or a moment where you felt yourself, you felt happy, you felt good for whatever reason. And it makes you, it just a very act of doing that allows your brain to go find all those lovely feelings and all those memories and all those moments, and can capture things that you may not realize you remembered, like what you could see, what you could hear. And so you can use that technique to become more specific about the present moment when it's something good. And you don't even have to stop doing what you're doing. You don't have to necessarily close your eyes for 5 minutes or meditate on it or think deeply about it. You can do it with just a mental note. So say you're out on a walk. I know a few of you have mentioned, in fact, I think most of you go walking. You know, I think most of us enjoy walking. But as you walk, maybe while you're walking, just set an intention for a matter of moments to kind of do a mental Polaroid of what's everything I can see and hear right now. So you're kind of instructing your brain to capture it more deeply, so that, and I'll tell you how powerful this is. So I did this just a few weekends ago. Just before my mum died, I went to see her, and it was actually nothing to do with my mum, but this is how our brains work and connect things. So we'd been to see her. I've gone with my son, had a really nice time, and we'd gone for something to eat. And it's one of those moments where you think, oh, you know, I'm having a nice time with my son, and sometimes, I don't know about you, it's not always great with our children. Sometimes it's a little bit and it was lovely, and the sun was shining, and I thought, I want to embed this moment. I want to be able to capture this because it connects with, I just had a nice time with my mum. It felt good. And so I just, while we were talking, was just looking at what was around me, what was in my environment, what the light was like, where we were. And so now, even now, I can see the colour of a flower. I know we were under a walnut tree. As I think about it, you know, I can begin to see the different things that were in that space, and it all connects to a feeling of connection with my son, connection with my mum, all kinds of lovely things. And I didn't have to stop doing anything. I just made a mental inner intention. Is that helpful? Right. Yes. Anyone want to pitch in anything before you get to close your eyes and relax? No? No? Everyone's happy?
Did you say, do we want to ask anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry, I wasn't sure what you said. I wasn't sure.
Oh, no, I said pitch in anything. Sorry, which is ask, comment, share. Yeah.
I thought you said picture anything. Oh. Right, okay, no, there's nothing. No, it's...
Yeah. Well, there's one of my language patterns there, isn't there?
No, it's just my hearing, I think.
I know, but, you know, it's pitch in. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Right, so Leslie's obviously got called away momentarily. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is, for the purpose of trying to maintain the quality of the audio, Sharon Sue, bless you, have already turned off your video, which is great. I'm going to, I don't know if I can turn off. I can. Can I? Oh, there you go. I can turn off everybody's video. Power. Power it all.
Mine, or shall I do my own?
If you can do your own, that's good. Leslie will be confused when she comes back. Right, so if you're not already in a comfortable position, then get yourself in a comfortable position. And just bear with me a second. I stupidly not brought a drink into the room with me. So I'll do my best not to croak. And I just want to reach out for something. Okay, so I'm assuming that everybody is now nicely relaxed, despite the fact that you can all hear my shuffling of my papers. So just allow yourself to do exactly what you're doing, which hopefully right now is closing your eyes. And as you close your eyes, you might be imagining anything. You might be thinking about what I've just been talking about. You might be thinking about something that happened this morning. You might be thinking about the sound, the distractions. Maybe where you are, there are sounds other than the sound of my voice. Maybe you'll be wondering whether the sound will hold up this time, whether everything will be audible, clear, whether it really matters. And the thing is, to some extent, it really doesn't matter. You can just allow yourself to be. Nobody wanting anything right now. Nobody expecting anything. This is your time. Quiet, specific space, time, freedom for you. To just pause for a moment. To be with yourself, for yourself. Not being here for anybody. Nobody wanting anything. Nobody expecting anything. Absolutely nothing whatsoever for you to do except what you're doing right now. Just closing your eyes. Allowing your thoughts to wander and drift if you choose. Perhaps they drift to something pleasurable from the week just gone, from the day just gone, from the day ahead. Curious to talk about from the day ahead as if something in the future was in the past. But in some ways, maybe you could choose to imagine that something you imagine, something delightful, something pleasurable, something you perhaps hoped to do, but perhaps now will do. Allow yourself to imagine doing the very thing that you possibly could have done, hope to do, might do. Something enjoyable, pleasurable, something connected to what you want for you. No particular plan or goal, just a pleasurable, enjoyable activity, experience, conversation, moment. Just allow yourself to imagine that you're there now, or that it's already happened and you're remembering it. And as you remember it, planting it into the future, so that the future is connected with the past through a memory that you create in the present, a gift you give to yourself, the present moment. This very moment. Be present with yourself. It really doesn't matter about anybody else, not the distractions. In your space or my space, just allowing yourself the gift of the present moment, a present you give to yourself. And allow yourself to be indulgent a little or a lot. Indulge yourself with pleasurable experiences. Of all places on the planet where you can be whatever you want, say whatever you want, do whatever you want, kick up your heels, dress how you choose, say what you want, go where you want. Imagine in your mind's eye that anything is possible. It doesn't have to be big or small. It could be as small as simply kicking off your shoes and wandering barefoot in grass, or something as huge as climbing a mountain. It really doesn't matter. And it's not on anybody's terms but yours. So maybe just think about this moment, this present moment. how it might feel even more pleasurable and enjoyable to extend this moment. If a miracle happened, and while you're sitting with your eyes closed, the miracle occurs in such a way that you don't really know it's happened because you were here with your eyes closed, with your mind wandering and thoughts coming in and out, or maybe just pleasurably engaged in something beautiful. That gift you give to yourself, imagination, pleasure, enjoyment, no longer hoping but actually doing. But this miracle occurs nonetheless, so that later on, as you move through the day, you begin to become aware of subtle little changes because now you're alert with more of your senses. Maybe you notice yourself moving differently, curious. How we don't always notice how we move. We think we're just the same all the time, but when you're happy and uplifted and filled with enthusiasm and joy and laughter, perhaps that's one of the changes, or smiling, or moving in a more animated way with greater energy, just moving differently, not just feeling differently, but maybe you notice yourself moving differently. Maybe you notice something you say differently. Perhaps it's a smile. Perhaps it's something you don't say that's different. Perhaps it's something you don't do. And most of the time, when it comes to what you want to focus on what you do want rather than what you don't want. Sometimes what you want is silence, is ease, is an ability to just let something go, which is kind of like not doing something. At the same time, it really is doing something. But you don't want to spend time trying to think too hard about what it is or isn't. Just allow yourself to be present. In the present moment, that might be an imagined future moment or a past moment. It really doesn't matter. It could be a walk, or you could be stretching your imagination wider and wider. Stretch right out to the perimeters, to the far edges of your imagination, fully stretched. Allow yourself to move in a rhythm, like a dance. Allow yourself to find a rhythm within yourself, a flow, your flow. And flow is that beautiful moment when mind connects with body, when you don't have to think about it, it just happens, it just is, it just feels right. When your thoughts are so beautifully aligned, synchronicity occurs between mind and body. And you don't have to be an athlete or a dancer, stretching or jumping, twisting or turning, gyrating. You can just be yourself right now. Just allow yourself to journey inwards for a moment, maybe pausing, but only if you choose. Allow your thoughts to be where they want to be. But perhaps you might choose to just journey inwards to yourself, to be curious about who me, as in you, really is. Just find, as you delve and dive deep within, just strolling through the labyrinths of your mind in an easy way. I wonder what you find here. Just looking for yourself. No rush. No need. No imperative, no ought. Just easily wandering. Enjoying a journey through your own mind, knowing your own mind, becoming more intimately acquainted with the tiny corners and pathways you may not have visited before or frequented often. Just seeing what discoveries you can make, allowing yourself to dive deep and discover so many pockets of brilliance, celebrating all the incredible, extraordinary things you do, the qualities you have, who you really are, just being, not having to be, not ought to be, just being. And wherever your mind is wandering, or even if it's wandered nowhere at all, and all that you've done is sat and taken this time, this space, this moment, this freedom from having to be or do anything, it really doesn't matter. All that matters is you. You matter. And the time you give to yourself, this moment is a gift, is a present, the present moment. This is your space, your time. Allow yourself to simply give yourself the gift of this space and this moment and this freedom, and receive it from yourself with gratitude, and feel the flow of light and ease, or just feel comfortable with yourself. So take your time. Remember, nobody's been wanting anything. Nobody's been expecting anything, and there's absolutely nothing whatsoever for you to do except slowly take your time before gently opening your eyes. And you can either just go back to your day, or just take a few moments to check back in. Did the sound hold up?
It did.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Hooray. So, how's everybody feeling?
Good.
Is this anything anyone, I mean, some of you I know are kind of work in similar areas. Is this something that's new to some of you, or something you've done before?
New to me.
Yeah.
It's new to me as well.
Are you feeling more relaxed than when you arrived, or were you already feeling just amazing?
No, definitely more relaxed, and I apologise for disappearing before that bit started. It was a bit, my mum's not been very well, and it was a call from her, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But she's a bit better this afternoon, so. But it's always a bit concerning when, you know, she phones because you're not sure what
Yeah.
it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it was all right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good. Hello, Sue.
Hello. Yeah, I rushed in, and then my brother was singing. That's what you heard. Yeah, I feel much It's good. I've got permanent entertainment. It's always singing. So yeah, I feel it helped me kind of just get grounded and back to me. So that was good. I mean, I find it I'm fascinated by the language thing, and it's kind of like a meditation. There's something, there are aspects of meditation there as well, aren't there? So I think it's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I love it, and we were talking. I don't know if you caught the bit where we were talking about the language. You hear when
I heard a little bit about the what did you say about was it Press for Time or something? You're talking about using how language can consciously or not give us other messages about there's other meanings. It's not just one meaning. So.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll
I'll watch the rest of it.
First half, yeah. Right. Well, I hope you all have a brilliant few days till we meet again on Friday. And Friday, I don't know what I should tell you. Well, yes, Friday I'm going to be telling you, I kind of slightly alluded to it, I think, during the session that we just did. I'm going to be talking about not doing things and how important it is that we understand the impact of not doing something in relation to filling our stress buckets, and just gently kind of adjusting our thought processes and how we think about things to allow us to move forwards instead of stuck in that vortex that drags us down. So that's what we'll be doing. But if anyone needs anything in between, if you've got a question you want to ask or something you want to share, please remember that I will respond if you message me. I might not respond straight away, but either post something in the group. If you want it to be just personal to me, then just message me through the group. I don't think you can't do that, because you can. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a great rest of the week. I'll speak to you on Friday.
Okay.
Bye. Bye everyone.
Bye all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.